So here's where things begin for real. I want to welcome people to the course, and I want to welcome people to the first series of lectures with this one, the brain, on neuroscience. And I want to begin the series of lectures and the course itself with a story about a man named Phineas Gage and an event that happened to Gage in the summer of 1848 in Cavendish, Vermont. So Gage was a blasting foreman working on a railway construction project, and his job at that time was to clear away rocks so that they could lay down tracks. And to do so, his route during those days was that he would bore a hole in the rocks. Inside the hole he put blasting powder and a fusing. Then he would cover that up with dirt and sand and take a tamping iron, which he carried with him. A big piece of steel looked like Jevil and used to tamp down the sand and dirt, so that later they could set the fuse and cause the explosions. Well, one day something didn't work. Nobody exactly sure who. Maybe he just forgot to put in the sand and the dirt, but regardless, he put the tamping iron into the hole. The powder exploded. The tamping iron shot away from his hand and went into his face. It entered the left side of Gateway, moving in an upward direction. It passed behind the left eye through the left side of the brain, as it went out the top of his skull and later several feet away of the clutter. Now miraculously Gage wasn't killed on the spot. He lost consciousness for a little bit, but then he staggered to his feet. In some regards, Gage was very lucky, so he underwent a series of operations. He had infections, he got sick, at times his life was at risk, but months later he was, in secular regards, pretty much recovered. He was able to see, he wasn't deaf, he wasn't paralyzed, he didn't lose the ability to speak or understand language, he didn't lose his intellectual capacities in any simple way. But in another sense, Gage was very unlucky. Because Gage has been transformed by this accident. Someone who knew Gage described the transformations like this. Before the accident, Gage was quite the most efficient capital man, a man of temperate habits, considerable energy of character, sharp-shot businessman. After the accident, Gage was no longer Gage. He was fitful, irreverent, indulgent, at times in the grossest profanity, manifesting but little differently for his fellows. He ended up losing his job. He traveled through the states, taking up different jobs, engaging in different relationships, and ultimately ended up in a travelers' holding a tamping iron and challenge people about this terrible story about how it went through his head and went through his brain and changed his life. So, who am I telling you this story? Well, as I said, I want to begin the course by talking about the brain. And the story of Philip Gage illustrates something we have abound reason to believe, which is that the source of mental life. And so damage to the brain can have profound effect on who they are and what we are. An idea here is nicely summarized by the Nobel Prize-winning biologist Franz Crick. He calls it the astonishing hypothesis. As he writes, the astonishing hypothesis is that your joys and your sorrows, your memories and your ambitions, your sense of personal identity and free will, are in fact no more than the behavior of a vast assembly of nerve cells and their associated molecules. Now this assembly of nerve cells is of course the brain and parts of the spinal cord, but we're going to talk about the brain here. At the idea then, as sometimes people like to put it, the meat is the brain, or that the meat is what the brain does, or the mental life emerges from the brain. The universal term for this is materialism, that we are material beings. Everybody accepts that our arms and legs and our head and kidneys are made of the same sort of stuff as rabbits and automobiles and cups. But the idea is that our mental life, what makes us special, our most intimate feelings, and those also earth from those material things. And this is the idea that makes possible the discipline of neuroscience and much of psychology.